Hello, and welcome to the Thyroid Pharmacist Healing Conversations podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Izabella Wentz, your thyroid pharmacist, and I'm so excited to have you here today. We're going to be talking about the skin, hair, and hormone connection with one of my dear friends, Dr. Trevor Cates. And you might know her as the spa doctor. So she is the brilliant woman that developed this fantastic product line, skincare line. And she also has been working behind the scenes to create some additional things for us. So I'm super excited about that. We are live. So if you have questions about hormones, if you have questions about skin, if you've got questions about hair, please go ahead and drop them in the comments. I've got my own questions for Dr. Cates. I'm going to be picking her brain, but you can pick her brain too. So we'll start answering your questions as we see them come up or towards the end. We'll work them into the conversation. I will tell you a little bit about Dr. Trevor Cates. She is the author of the best-selling book, Natural Beauty Reset and Clean Skin from Within, and is the founder of the Spa Doctor natural skincare and supplement line. She was the first woman licensed as a naturopathic doctor in the state of California. While living in California, she was appointed by former Governor Schwarzenegger to California's Bureau of Naturopathic Medicine Advisory Council. Dr. Cates was the doctor in the Waldorf Astoria Spa in Park City, Utah, in addition to running wellness clinics in California and Utah for 25 years. She's been helping women from around the world overcome challenges with their skin and hormones and feel at home in their bodies. She's been featured on various TV shows, including The Doctors, PBS, and Extra TV. Dr. Cates has interviewed hundreds of women's health experts for her Hormones, Health, and Harmony 10-part docuseries, the Women's Doctor podcast, and the Spa Doctor podcast. Thank you for having me on. I love being a guest. Since selling the Spa Doctor company she founded 8 years ago, Dr. Cates has shifted her focus towards advocating for women's wellness. So, Dr. Cates, it's such a pleasure to have you here. And I always love talking with you because you're so knowledgeable about women's health and hormones, and also how it impacts our, not just how it impacts our inner feelings, but also our outward appearances too. Now, I know we were chatting a little bit before, and you've been a naturopathic doctor. I don't want to say how many years, right? Because we're both still 25.
Right.
But
25 years. Yeah.
25 years you've been a naturopathic doctor. And I feel like a lot of us, we go through some training through school or through functional medicine training, and we have perspectives on how to help women. And then we go through things ourselves, and perhaps some of those perspectives shift. I'm curious with you, how has perimenopause shifted or perhaps solidified some of the things that you've been doing for the last 25 years?
Yeah, it really has. It's amazing. And thank you so much for having me on. It's great to connect with you. When I came out of medical school and I was seeing women going through menopause, I know they looked at me and were like, you don't really know what I'm going through. But all these years, 25 years later, I'm 52 and I'm like, okay, now I get it. I get what all these women were experiencing it. And it is a totally different thing. I mean, it's one thing to know in your brain from school, but then another thing to actually live through something and to wake up in the middle of the night feeling the hot flashes and the night sweats and not being able to sleep. I mean, I always slept so well beforehand. And I'm like, what is this? I thought I was doing all the things. And then I would come up with a plan of like, okay, now I've got, these supplements, I've got my bioidentical hormones. And then all of a sudden I go through another shift and change. And now I understand why my patients would get so frustrated, be like, why does it keep changing? And so I have a new appreciation for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know I started having some weird symptoms towards during the pandemic where I would have that insomnia. And I was like, wait a minute, I've always been such an amazing sleeper. And even when I had I was in the throes of Hashimoto's, if anything, I slept too much. I would be sleeping 10 to 12 hours. And all of a sudden in perimenopause, I'm waking up like between 1 and 3 a.m. and like palpitations, anxiety, like rethinking every decision I've ever made in my entire life. And it's crazy what can happen, and nobody really prepares us for it.
No, it's true. And I asked my mom, and she's like, "Oh, I think I had a few hot flashes, and I think that was about it." And I think that so many people, there's a stigma that's been associated with it. And it's so great to see more women talking about it. TV shows and celebrities and all kinds of people coming out talking about it. It's really great to see. But we have some catching up to do. It's taken a long time to get to this place where women feel comfortable talking about it. And also the Women's Health Initiative study that's set things back with hormone replacement therapy. Also, we've got to, kind of catch up from that damage as well.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's almost like I had a son at 35, and a lot of times, like, nobody really prepares you for all of the stuff postpartum. Like, nobody really talks about that. And then I feel like nobody really talks about perimenopause, and we're just starting to have these conversations of what it feels like. And I think these conversations are really important to have, because if we don't talk about the issue, we're not going to talk about solutions, right? And so there's so many different solutions that I've learned about in the last few years that can support women on their hormonal journey when they are in perimenopause. What I know, and naturopathic doctors are, leading this effort in many cases, because conventional doctors are simply ignoring this. I'd love to know what kind of things you found to be I'd love to know what kind of things you found to be helpful for women in perimenopause.
Yeah, completely. I graduated from naturopathic medical school in 2000, and I was taught all about bioidentical hormones and, of course, the nutrients and herbs and diet, stress management, sleep support, all of the things that I still a lot of it I do today. And it's interesting because a few years after I graduated, the Women's Health Initiative study came out and said hormones aren't safe. And I constantly had to educate women, my patients, like, okay, this study is not on bioidentical hormones. This is different, and this is how. And so I continued to do bioidentical hormones since I graduated in 2000. And my colleagues and I were, we would get together and encourage each other. And so now it's nice to see that a lot of that information from the Women's Health Initiative study, the light has been shed on that. And women are now realizing the safety, especially in bioidentical hormones. So it's made my job easier. But besides that, I'm doing a lot of the same stuff because there's great research that's come up, but a lot of the foundational things I've been doing all these years. And, it still goes back to addressing root causes, because what happens when we go through postpartum, perimenopause, menopause, whatever those root causes we haven't addressed, those are kind of going to bubble up. So it's actually another opportunity to be like, okay, well, you didn't quite address those gut issues. So now here's another opportunity. Now that you've got your hormones are kind of all over the place, we can get back to those root causes. So we don't want to forget those, the root causes like gut microbiome imbalances, nutritional deficiencies, inflammation. And so those, of course, are all the things. And the naturopathic approach is this more holistic approach. It's not like, oh, you have a hot flash, so take this herb. That's the conventional medicine approach, where it's really no different than you have a headache, take an aspirin. And in some ways it's different, but in a lot of ways it's not, because we've got to look at the person holistically.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like, I think somebody once said that perimenopause lowers our resilience, so everything just sort of comes to the surface. And I love how you use the word opportunity. I've heard other things said about that, usually like four-letter words, but yeah, it can absolutely be another opportunity for us to heal. I know a lot of women find themselves in trouble if they haven't been doing a lot of weight-bearing exercise or really working on their fitness, where perhaps they were able to get away with that in their 20s and 30s. And then once perimenopause hits, like you really have to be mindful about your movement, right? And really doing that weight bearing exercise.
Yeah, 100%. And of course, there is the symptom management as we go through perimenopause. And I think part of what we're talking about is just the awareness, like symptoms are not unusual. However, symptoms shouldn't be just tolerated. They're signs that there's an imbalance in the body and it's an opportunity. So when we have these symptoms, like, okay, your body is screaming. I know you've heard me talk a lot about skin and how I call skin the magic mirror. And so when we have skin issues going on, it's like our body is trying to get our attention. Pay attention. There's something underneath this that needs to be addressed rather than just trying to slap something on it, your skin, to suppress the symptom. Similarly, we've got to be careful with that with going through perimenopause, and certainly not just going on birth control pills to mask the symptoms of things like acne or hormonal imbalances causing irregular periods and things like that, which is, birth control pills should be reserved for birth control, not with trying to address symptoms.
It's really interesting. I'm a believer in making sure that you have informed consent. Hold on one sec. I'm gonna.
No worries. Informed consent's always a good thing. It's always good to take a water break.
I mentioned I've got a little bit of a cold, but I really wanted to have this conversation. Birth control has recently been found to be a thyroid trigger, and it's very challenging when women aren't aware how it could affect them. And it's being used as a band aid approach from anything from like regulating your periods to PCOS to even perimenopause. And there's much better solutions out there. There's even alternatives that people can use for family planning purposes. And so, really, really appreciate you bringing that up. I did want to ask you about how hormonal imbalances can impact our skin.
Yes, and absolutely, it is, of course, one of the root causes, and a sort of hormonal imbalances. There can be root causes under hormonal imbalances, but there are lots of things that can happen. One of the things that happens, especially and we notice it starting at puberty, is acne. Acne can be an issue when our hormones are out of balance, especially in puberty when our hormones are surging, and especially like androgens are coming to the surface, that coming to play, and those sorts of things. But then again, acne can appear in perimenopause as well. Izabella, you've disappeared. So make sure I'm still with you.
I'm still here.
Okay, great. And so acne can also show up in perimenopause, and so that really surprises a lot of women when they are like, wait, I thought that was something that teenagers have. Why am I having acne now? And that is those changes in our hormones, those fluctuations, such as when like progesterone will start to decline. Maybe some of the androgens start to become a little bit more in excess. There are different reasons why we can have these acne breakouts. And even when we're super stressed, cortisol can cause those acne breakouts too. And then, of course, we notice things like premature aging, some fine lines and wrinkles getting worse, sagging skin. And for some women, they feel like it's happening overnight. And so those are things when we have especially decline in estrogen, but also even testosterone and progesterone, that can cause changes and the acceleration of collagen loss, and people start to notice it more rapidly.
What are some natural ways to support that? How do you get how do you maintain,
Yeah.
and keep your skin graceful, right? And kind of, I don't want to say graceful aging, but I feel like rather than fighting against it is just really embracing it, but also making it not so apparent.
It's really funny that you're kind of struggling with that, because it is a struggle with people. It's like, we don't want to say anti-aging, because that's, I mean, while some people do say anti-aging, I can't stand that, because we're not going to stop aging. We're all getting older, and that's actually a beautiful thing. I love being 52. I think it's just amazing. I have the amount of wisdom and freedom and knowledge and all kinds of success and all kinds of things that have happened at this point in my life. I love it. But so we don't want to anti-age,
Yeah.
but I kind of like aging gracefully, because I like things like doing things with grace. That makes it sound like easy and seamless. And I've always liked the word graceful, but I also know that we don't want to be, it's not like lazy aging. We don't want to be like, oh, well, it's just going to happen. There are things that we can do to make sure that our skin matches how energetic we feel on the inside, especially when we're taking good care of ourselves, right? So, certainly with my approach, you definitely want to do both from the inside out and then what we do on the outside. So from the inside out, we do a lot of the things that you already teach people to do, like decreasing inflammatory foods, right? Things like sugar and dairy and processed foods, and getting more anti-inflammatory foods like omega-3 rich fatty acids from wild Alaskan salmon, or antioxidant rich foods that help protect against oxidative damage, because one of the biggest things that happens with premature aging is the oxidative damage, which happens naturally as we age. But if we consume a lot of antioxidants, that can help protect against that. And then getting also collagen rich foods, things like bone broth or gelatin can have, those have collagen in them. Vitamin C rich foods help support our collagen naturally. So any of those kinds of foods that are anti-inflammatory, rich in antioxidants, collagen rich, nutrient dense foods, those are going to help. And then of course, when we look at things like our gut health, whatever we do to support our gut health is going to help our skin and the aging of our skin, and because of that gut skin connection. And then we also want to make sure that we're managing our stress, we're getting good sleep, all of those things that you do for your health anyway, to help address root causes and just make sure that you feel your best. Those are actually going to help the skin too. So all the more reason to minimize sugar, minimize processed foods, and getting a whole, more like a Mediterranean type diet. I mean, again, I've been doing naturopathic medicine for 25 years. Mediterranean diet has never gone out of style. Like there are a lot of other diets that have come and gone, and I mean, certainly we know low fat, high fat, all kinds of things, but Mediterranean diet has been the one that's kind of stuck around the most, which means mostly plants and then all these other nutrients that we talk about. Also getting plenty of protein. So because our skin needs that as well as nutrients and protein. So all of that stuff from the inside, like I said, sleep and movement, getting outdoors, and managing your stress, all of that really makes a difference with the aging of our skin. And then what we do on the outside is also important. And so for so many years as a naturopathic physician, I focused strictly on the inside, from the inside, and I didn't really think that what you did on the surface really mattered. But then 10 years ago, actually, it was like 12 years ago, because it was like right when I was turning 40, I was like, maybe I should start applying some stuff to my skin. Maybe I need to start doing something and pay attention to that. And around that time, I was working at the Waldorf Astoria, and a lot of my patients were asking about topically what to do. So that's when I started to really look at that research. And so I learned about the skin, more about the skin microbiome, the pH of the skin barrier function, and that what we put on our skin does make a difference. Because prior to that, I had always just like, well, just use clean products. Just make sure they don't have hormone disrupting chemicals, which a lot of products do. But there are also certain ingredients that really do help support our skin. And then the pH of the products being mildly acidic actually supports our skin microbiome. Having the right kinds of like plant-based oils rather than things like mineral oil that then just trap in heat and aren't nourishing our skin. Also avoiding things like that trap in moisture, that are synthetic, like silicones and ingredients like that. And instead, again, these plant-based oils that can be very nourishing without trapping in heat. So all of these things make a really big difference. So doing that internally and externally, when those two are added together, that's when the magic happens.
I love that. I know I didn't realize when I was earlier on my healing journey how impactful chemicals can be in our skincare products. I actually got arsenic toxicity from like a lip gloss. And, what you put on your skin, you can actually absorb. Can you speak a little bit more to some of the toxins in skincare and how they could affect our hormones?
Yeah, I mean, you think about, we use hormone creams on our skin. We use estradiol patches. I think somebody just asked a question about an estradiol patch. We put those on our skin because it's a form of absorption. We can get things into circulation. We can get medications and nicotine patches. These are forms of application because our skin is permeable. Now, it's not the same as swallowing something. Our digestive permeability is more than our skin, but we still absorb a lot through the skin. And it really is, I can't say exactly what amount because it varies from one person to another. And part of that depends on a person's skin barrier function. So a lot of people have, like they have leaky gut, they might also have leaky skin. So then they actually absorb more if they have things like eczema or really sensitive skin. And these types of things do tend to flare up in perimenopause as well. So, but when we look at what we put on our skin, I mean, I sometimes will tell people, pause, like, would you put it in your mouth? If you wouldn't, then pause and ask why. Not that you should be able to, I mean, skincare products, I make them, so I know you don't want to swallow them. They're not made for that. But at the same time, ask yourself why, like what's in it that I don't want to consume. And I can tell you, with creating skincare and now with creating hair care products, it makes me so happy to see ingredients that we would take in supplements in our skincare products. It just makes sense. Why wouldn't you want to put natural things on your skin, especially since they contain things like antioxidants and oils that help with the barrier function of the skin and that support the pH, and things like pineapple fruit extract that has natural enzymatic processes, like you want enzymes in your digestion. So when I start creating our list of ingredients, I just get excited because I'm like, oh, those are all the things we put in supplements. That's what we're eating. These are great things internally. That's what we should be putting on our skin, because the thing is they actually, if they're formulated right, they actually work too.
Yeah, it's just so fascinating. And, from like a pharmacology standpoint, it's like, of course, we can absorb different substances. It's going to vary on our skin type, the fat mass we have on our bodies with certain fat soluble compounds. And then it's going to, of course, vary by the compound. And a lot of these toxins that are in skincare items are absolutely going to be absorbed, and they can contribute to hormonal imbalances and estrogen dominance, a lot of health challenges for women. And so I really appreciate, one, that your skincare is free of toxins that can really disrupt that hormonal function. And that you also I've used some like natural deodorants, and I use the Spa Doctor skincare line for my skin these days. And I feel like it makes a big difference in my perimenopause skin. But I find like sometimes there are natural things like natural deodorants, natural skincare things, and you're like, I still am stinky and like my face is not moisturized. You know what I mean? And so, could you talk about some of the ingredients that you love utilizing in the skincare, and like how do you make it work? Like how do you make it clean and work? Like that's quite the accomplishment.
Yeah, yes, I know. And that was partly why I created the company 10 years ago, was because patients would be like, Dr. Cates, I know you want me to use that natural stuff, but here, I mean, I'm seeing patients at the Waldorf Astoria, and they're used to really fancy, beautiful scents and expensive skincare products. And they're like, I'm going to the health food store and I'm not happy with this experience. And so So I started to look at it. I'm like, there's got to be a way, because the healing power of nature is real, right? And so I really started to look at that. And so part of it comes down to, like I said, the pH of the products. So the pH of the products, the research shows that it's best with our skin being mildly acidic. So naturally, when our skin is in a healthy state, it's mildly acidic. So what we put on our skin should support that. And I mean, we can put things on our skin that are higher pH, and then our skin has to adjust. So if our skin's really healthy, maybe it can do that. But as we get older, we want all the support we can get, right? So we generally put the skincare products for the face in particular around 4.6 pH is kind of that ideal. So somewhere between 4.65 is ideal, but we're usually right around 4.6. And people can actually just get pH strips and test your serums or moisturizers. If it's 100% oil, you can't test a pH of that. Going back to chemistry class, it has to have some water in it, so not just pure oil. But that's one of the things. And I think a lot of times people are focused on a single ingredient, like like a bioretinol, like a retinol alternative or something, which can be great. But I can tell you, and people are always asking me, what is your secret sauce? What is the key ingredient in the Spa Doctor skincare? And I'm like, every single ingredient has a purpose. So it's like asking, like, what's your favorite child?
I only have one, so
Yeah, right. That's easier for you. I've got three. It's three stepchildren, so that's hard for me. So, I mean, certainly we want antioxidant rich nutrients. And what I find is I really like to get it as you would find it in nature. Like, for example, sea buckthorn fruit oil is really naturally rich in vitamin C. And also some essential fatty acids. And so instead of isolating and just putting vitamin C in a formula, we like to get like the whole plant when we can. And so antioxidant rich ingredients like that. There are also a lot of great peptides that we're now putting in the Spa Doctor products. When I started, some of these ingredients weren't even available. So it's great to kind of update with some of these ingredients. We only choose naturally derived ingredients though, because there are a lot of products out there that are so-called natural, but they might have a few natural ingredients and they may avoid certain toxins, but they're still containing things that I wouldn't put in products. Things like dimethicone, which is like one of those silicone heat trapping, or also like phenoxyethanol, and also certain fragrances that can still have hormone disrupting chemicals in there. So look for antioxidant rich ingredients. Peptides can be really great. Anything, and then also that pH of the products. Those are some of the key things.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I know it's exciting to see when you utilize skincare that actually works and makes a difference. And you're not like intoxicating yourself, basically.
Yes.
One of the cool new things actually, I did want to ask you about your book, The Natural Beauty Reset.
Yeah.
The 4 key factors that help with hormonal balance.
Yes. And so with my book, so I have 2 books. Clean Skin from Within came out first. That was focused on skin. But I did get so many questions about hormones. So I wrote my second book focused primarily around hormones. And so it's really we've touched on these: food, movement, mindset, and skincare. And all of these really help on a day-to-day basis. It's the daily choices that we make that make the biggest difference. You can sometimes go and do a special spa treatment or something like that every now and then, which is great. But really, what the daily choices that we make are most important. And those 4 areas are really key for balancing our hormones. They're also important for our skin. And then what I did with Natural Beauty Reset is I took those and I created a seasonal aspect to each of those. So for each of the 4 seasons, I give food, movement, mindset, skincare recommendations.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I'm going to link the book in the comments and show notes for people if they wanted to check that out. I believe I endorsed the book, so it's an
Yes,
excellent.
yes, you did.
um, I one of the things I'm super, 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 super excited about, and I've been hearing about it from some colleagues, is that you actually now are like you have a hair care line. And
Yes.
you know how passionate I am about hair. One of the reasons why well, I'm a Leo, so that's one of the reasons, but just being a Leo in general. But hair loss is one of the big symptoms that many women with thyroid disorders face. I know this was like, I could deal with the like fatigue and I could deal with like the joint pains and all of these things. And I was going to different doctors and they were like, oh, you're just getting older. Of course, I was 25. And then the hair loss, I was like, like I should not be losing hair at 25. This is something. And for a lot of women, it's their hairdressers that will be like, hey, I think you need to get your thyroid checked because this is a really big symptom of thyroid dysfunction. Additional reasons can lead to hair loss as well. I was hoping you could talk through some of those things for us.
Yeah, absolutely. And there are, I mean, hypothyroidism is definitely one of the big, or, thyroid disease can be a big reason for having that hair loss. And it is one of the more common ones that, we see in clinical practice, right? But also, there could be nutritional deficiencies, things like iron deficiency, anemia can be a big cause, especially women who are still menstruating regularly. And so that certainly is anytime you go through a big stressor, that can be a reason for hair shedding more. And so there are also certain medications that can cause hair loss. So we definitely always want to look to the root cause, like why is the hair falling out? So that is really important, and that's one of the reasons why I paused on creating some hair care products, because I never want people to think it's just about what you topically put on or even a supplement, because you've got to address the root causes behind why are you losing hair. But once you start addressing your thyroid, once you get on iron supplementation, if you realize you're anemic, or once that stressor has passed, or or the infection, infection's another one that can cause hair loss. There, once you address these, then it's like, okay, now how do I get my hair to grow back? Yeah, so that's why I was so excited that at the spa doctor, we launched a hair serum, a hair growth serum. And, even with my skincare products, I'm like hopeful, but you never really know. And so like I put together this hair serum. And I'm like, I put all the ingredients, I have the research behind it. And I wanted to, the experience of it. I don't want it to be greasy and oily because I don't want to wash my hair every day. So, and I know that women don't want to do that. So it's wanted to get the textures right, but we wanted it to work, right? And it's been amazing to see the benefits for people seeing their hair grow. And I think I was telling you that my hairdresser said, you need to stop using this because you've got too much hair now. So,
Good problem to have. That's a
right.
good problem to have.
So the hair growth serum is really great. And it's, we've got things in there like pea sprout extract and peptides and red clover flower extract, gotu kola, things in there. Again, I get excited because I'm like, these are things I'd put in supplements. So this is really great. But it really does work. And then we also just launched a shampoo and conditioner, which I was always nervous to make because skincare is not easy, but when you're trying to make clean and effective skincare, but hair care, I was like, oh, it's so hard because you've got to have the lather and, got people with all different types of hair. And so it took us a little bit of time to get the right formula for this, but I'm super excited that we're able to keep it super clean and still give that feeling of, my hair feels great after using it, after styling it. So again, lots of natural ingredients, herbs in there that you would love. So I mean, things like rosemary, sea buckthorn fruit oil, kelp extract. gotu cola, things like that that are in there that just are really great for the hair. And and also good for the environment. We always just double check too with EWG, making sure that our environmental working group, because they have a clean uh, database for skincare and also hair care, and that our products are always rated below a 4. That's in the very low end of that. So I'm very happy about it.
I really, really am excited about that. And as you know, like hair loss is thyroid hormones can impact it, but also like hormonal imbalances like PCOS, when you have too much DHT, when you make too much testosterone, all of these things can lead to hair loss. And I know you have some supplement blends as well that can support that. Do you typically recommend utilizing the supplements together with the hair serum for optimal hair growth, or would you kind of just use them on an as needed basis? Like, I'm curious how you approach that.
Yes, thank you for asking. So again, I always like to go back to that root cause. So if a woman is going through perimenopause and she's got or menopause and she's got some of that hair loss because of those hormonal changes, we do have a supplement that helps. It has things like saw palmetto in there that helps with that DHT. And so I think it's a beautiful combination to do that, because again, just like skin, addressing inside and then also on the outside. Now, that hair growth supplement is not going to necessarily be, if it's not a woman going through perimenopause and those types of hair loss reasons, it may not, it's not going to help with someone who has iron deficiency anemia or that has unaddressed hypothyroidism. But once they've addressed those things, it can help the hair grow faster.
Yeah, I personally had an issue with DHT conversion where like my body was just like, let's give you some DHT. And that can be a really, really frustrating symptom of, chin hair. And basically you get hair where you don't want it.
And
It's not,
acne.
yeah, yeah. I would get like chin acne and like hair on my chin, and then I'd be like losing hair here. And for some women, it is absolutely your thyroid hormones, and you need to get those in balance. Sometimes you need to make sure that you are on a high enough dose of thyroid, getting your TSH between like 0.5 and 2. And then sometimes you need to make sure you're on like a T3 containing thyroid hormone to really support that hair growth. Sometimes it's like ferritin, where your iron storage is low, so you're not going to be growing your hair for that reason. But there's also a few of these additional root causes. And so I appreciate that you've also considered DHT, because I feel like it's a very underappreciated cause
Yeah.
of, skin and hair issues.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of times people were focused on men with hair loss, and DHT being the issue for men. And so there were a lot of, saw palmetto and things like that, supplements for men. But we don't want to lose our hair either.
Yeah, our hair is more important. I'm just kidding. What about collagen? What are your thoughts on utilizing collagen? Because I know this is a very common ingredient for hair and skin and nails. Do you like utilizing collagen, and what are your best recommendations for that?
Yeah, we at the Spa Doctor, we do make a collagen supplement, and we have our dermal beauty blend also has marine collagen in it, and then we have just a collagen powder that people can use, and that's bovine collagen. I think it's nice to get a combination of the different types of collagen. I think they do make a difference for our skin, our hair, but also our gut health, our joints. It's hard to go wrong with collagen as long as you're using a really clean source. And I love ours because the powder, because it tastes really good. And in addition to the collagen peptides, it has things like vitamin C that also help support our natural collagen production.
Yeah, I think that can be very helpful for so many women. Um, we are getting a few questions here. So let's make sure. People want to know what's the name of, first, Ruth says, loving the skincare set. Can you tell us the name of the skincare set?
The Spa Doctors it's a spot doctor 3-step system. Sorry, now I'm starting to cough.
It's contagious. I'm like getting you sick through
I know.
the camera.
The
Okay,
spot doctor, yeah. Mhm.
I'm gonna be posting the link to the book, so hopefully everybody will be able to get that. And I'm gonna post
And
and
I
then
loved your video. You did a video for us on social media using the skincare products, and so great. And talking about skin. Yeah. All your favorite nutrients too.
it was a lot of fun. I've been using it and I see a really big difference in my skin. And I'm a little bit squeamish with what I like put in my body. I'm kind of a minimalist. Like I would not wear makeup if I didn't have some like sun damage and discolorations. And so I'm like, like it's really been helping with some of the fine lines and just making my skin appear more plump. So yeah, giving me a little bit more of that glow.
Yeah, your skin looks great.
Thank you so much. Name of the hair care product line, Maggie wants to know.
Yeah, so that's the Spot Doctor, and it's just hair serum, Spot Doctor hair serum.
I'm
And
gonna see
it's THESPADR. Doctor is abbreviated DR.
okay, I'm gonna see if I could post a link to that. Okay, we did.
Yeah, and I realized that yeah, the question that I have is on my YouTube. So yeah.
Okie dokie. Let's see here. And then we have a few more questions here. Bella wanted to know if contraceptives irritate the skin of the face and neck, and can they affect hair loss? And what can we do to prevent both? And I'm curious if you have some thoughts on that.
So contraception being like birth control pills.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's interesting because birth control pills are oftentimes a lot of women with acne are put on birth control pills. However, there are certain types of birth control pills that trigger acne. I actually had that experience as a 20-something-year-old. I went on birth control pills and they didn't even know what was wrong with me. I had so much acne. They thought I had chickenpox because I never had it as a child. So I also it actually can trigger certain types can trigger skin issues. But the other thing to be aware of, whatever type of birth control you're on, birth control pills in particular, is the gut health, the way it impacts the gut microbiome. And so we have a skin microbiome and we have a gut microbiome. Now we have microbiota all over the body in different areas, and there are different types, but they're also important. But there's this important connection between the gut, skin. And so if you have gut dysbiosis, which birth control pills, it's one of the problems with them, is they do cause gut dysbiosis, then that can cause skin dysbiosis. So then that can cause the skin to break out. And when we have that dysbiosis, it can also not just acne, but it can trigger rosacea, eczema, premature aging. So we really want to take good care of the skin microbiome. So yes, and then hair, partly because we can get certain nutritional deficiencies too that can be a problem. And then if generally with birth control pills, what you're doing is you're lowering testosterone. So a lot of times people that have that DHT issue, that they feel like their skin clears up with birth control pills. But then the problem is that you need testosterone. So then you're missing out on that. So I open up a whole can of worms there. Hopefully it wasn't too much.
No, I think it's really helpful. I think, again, like informing people about what they could do to care for themselves best. It's really, really important. Johnny wanted to know how to take care of facial and scalp skin with seborrheic dermatitis.
Seborrheic dermatitis. So yes, I mean, and that one is a lot of times people have that like around the nose and the ears, but it can be pretty significant. Generally, what I find is that there is some type of food intolerance that's going on, and that happens with a lot of chronic skin issues. And that's why in my book, my first book, Clean Skin from Within, I created a list of 10 different things to cut out of your diet to try and figure out what might be a correlation of what might be triggering that. And so a lot of times with seborrheic dermatitis, there is something that you're eating, consuming, and a lot of times it's one of the common ones like dairy or gluten are common ones. But it could be any number of things. But if you can identify it and avoid that and heal the gut, because a lot of times when you have those intolerances and you have skin issues, there are gut issues that go along with it. I mean, I have so many patients that have come in to see me and they've got chronic skin issues like eczema or acne or seborrheic dermatitis, different things. And I say, well, let's do some gut microbiome testing. Let's check your gut. And they're like, oh, but my digestion's fine. I'm like, no, at this point in my career, I don't need you to have digestive issue because all I know is that you've got this chronic skin issue, and always there is some sort of gut dysbiosis, and that's a big trigger for the skin issues.
Yeah, it's such a good point because I've just wrapped up a book about irritable bowel syndrome and doing all that research into, obviously irritable bowel syndrome is symptomatic, but some of the driving factors behind it, like infections or dysbiosis or intestinal permeability, like half of the people have no symptoms, or maybe they might have symptoms, but they might normalize it. I know, I used to think before I went gluten and dairy free that like the normal digestive process was your stomach hurts after you eat, like because I always had it. So I just thought that was normal. And I know so many people have healed their gut and they're like, oh, you're supposed to poop every day. Interesting. Like that never happened before.
Right. It's like we need to let people know what normal is because a lot of people don't know what that is. Like, for example, there are a lot of people that just don't have an appetite. And and that a lot of times is a sign of gut issues. They don't have pain, they don't have discomfort, they don't actually have symptoms other than like, yeah, I'm just not hungry. And I'm like, why? Like, it's normal to be hungry. Like, we want you to be hungry. And so usually that's another sign of an imbalance.
Yeah, that's such a really good point. I know I went through a time where I was like, I'm just never really hungry, but I was like bloated all the time and I ended up having a gut infection. And I was like, it wasn't it took me a little while to put that together, but I was like, what's going on? And of course, you are supposed to be hungry. And if you have an infection, that could really impact that pathway of your gut communicating to your brain that you're hungry.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a question on my side. Do you mind if I answer it? Because so somebody asked it said that she's in menopause and she asked if an estradiol patch can create red bumps on your skin. And I just want to remind people that what you put on your skin, there are a lot of people with sensitivities, and whether it's whatever it is that's touching your skin can cause irritation. So yes, sometimes patches do cause irritation and cause people to have like redness or itching. And so for that person, it might be better to go to a compounding pharmacy, work with a good, like, tons about this as well. Go work with a compounding pharmacist can come up with something that's going to be more sensitive skin friendly.
Yeah, I think that's such great advice because you can customize things to not have the ingredients that you react to. I know some of the bioidentical hormones might have things like peanut oil in them, and some people are sensitive to that. But there's always things you can have made at a compounding pharmacy that might be more friendly for whatever sensitivities you might have. I'm curious if this person, Pam, wanted to know, can the hair products help with LPP? Lichen planopilaris, I think that's what she means. I'm curious if you have any experience with that.
So I'm not exactly sure. I don't have experience with that. And this is a new product. And we haven't done any clinical trials on it yet. So I can't say per se, and we certainly haven't addressed that. But like I was saying, it's always good to address whatever the root cause is. So whatever is going on with your skin, and you've got some irritation, you've got itching, burning, things like that happening with LPP. You want to address that. And once you've addressed that and the symptoms are calming down and a lot of chronic skin issues or scalp issues have to do with autoimmune disease, which Isabella, you know a ton about. And so we got to calm down the immune system. We've got to address those things. We can't, and it's not just like there's not just this magic bullet it's going to cure all things, right? You've got to address those things. And then once you're addressing those, then you can use a hair serum, you can use the Spa Doctor products, and that can help accelerate your hair growing back faster. But it's really, you need to do both.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that, because I do feel like a lot of it really is like your book talks about, like you do have to work the inside and the outside, but you can't just do one or the other, right? Oh, Anna wanted to know, what about when you're the bottomless pit and have an insatiable appetite?
Yes. That's a good question too. And there can be gut dysbiosis issues with that too. I've certainly seen that as well. I mean, I've seen it with parasites. I've seen it with candida. That can be one of the causes. That also can be thyroid too. So that you might want to look at your thyroid. You could look at but what are you eating too? Are you eating things that are going to sustain you? Or are you eating lots of high carb, or maybe you're not getting enough calories, maybe you're not getting enough food, and so you're constantly trying to eat. So there are quite a few reasons why that might be happening. So
yeah, thank you so much for sharing that, because I know that can be, for some people, is like they have no appetite, and for other people it's like yeah, like I just can't stop myself from eating. And there can be important root causes to consider for both of them. I feel like the gut is always such a great place to start. Ruth wanted to know if you have preferred iron supplements for low ferritin.
I'm sorry, a preferred iron supplement.
If you have a preferred iron supplement for low ferritin.
The one I've been using for years is I believe it's Vitanica Iron Extra is what it's called. And I found that one to be good because it's generally it's not constipating. A lot of iron supplements are constipating. And so I do like that one.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I'll have to add that to my list of things to check out, because I'm like, this is such a common issue in people with Hashimoto's and hypothyroidism, that they have these low iron stores. And a lot of them will take it orally and they don't absorb it properly. So a lot of times I am recommending like iron infusions, or even using something like lactoferrin. And of course, some of them are just like super, super constipating. So that's going to be really, really helpful, because we know that women with thyroid issues tend to be constipated. So,
yeah.
Let's see. Anything that may help with energy with perimenopause and Hashimoto's. Curious if you have some experience from your patients with anything that you might have as a favorite.
For energy?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, again, we have to go back to the root cause. Why is there no energy? There could be a number of reasons for that. When you're going through perimenopause, we talked about sleep is oftentimes an issue. So, how is your sleep? Are you getting 8 hours, 7, 8 hours of high quality sleep? You might want to start, if you feel like maybe you are sleeping, but you're not quite sure about the quality, there are devices you could use. Like I wear an Aura ring. There are lots of things that you can actually track and see, kind of give you some feedback on your sleep to see how well you're sleeping. And if that's an issue, then things like progesterone, or addressing your hot flash. If you're having hot flashes and night sweats, then you might need some estrogen, or things like black cohosh or melatonin to help you with sleep. Whatever can help you with sleep is important. And then another big thing is blood sugar. Blood sugar balance is one that happens a lot with women in perimenopause. They start to have these kind of ups and downs. So I oftentimes will recommend continuous glucose monitors for my patients, even if they're not diabetic, but that gives them real-time feedback on what they're eating, their stress, man. Like stress plays a huge role in our blood sugar too. And so with all those hormonal changes, blood sugar can be an issue. And so if your blood sugar is dropping, your energy is going to follow that. And then that also impacts the hunger and all of those things. Another thing that happens in perimenopause is testosterone dropping. And so if you're also noticing muscle wasting, your low sex drive, things like that, that can be another cause for fatigue. Thyroid can come up during perimenopause in a way that it can worsen, it can present itself. As you know, too, like postpartum is a big time for thyroid because of those hormonal fluctuations. And then thyroid happens, and then you have no energy.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And somebody's asking the connection with perimenopause and thyroid issues. So we do know a lot of women, they might have new onset thyroid issues during perimenopause, and they also might have a change in thyroid function. So if you're somebody that has been on thyroid meds for a while and then perimenopause hits, you might actually need to increase your dosage of thyroid meds, just because the way that we utilize them can change with perimenopause. All of our hormones talk to each other. They all work in symphony with one another. So I feel like that's a critical conversation to have, because a lot of times women will be very stable with their thyroid hormones and their thyroid health, and then perimenopause hits, and that just really shakes things up a bit.
Yeah.
Let's see here. I would love for you to tell us a little bit more about where people, I'm going to ask you some rapid fire questions to put you on the spot about your favorite wellness hacks and some things that you avoid. But before we do, I'd love for you to tell us where people can find you, where they can find your books, where they can get more information about your product lines, and how to best connect with you.
Great. Yeah. If people can find out about me on drtrevorcates.com. And you follow me on social media, Trevor Cates or Dr. Trevor Cates. And then the Spa Doctor is the skincare supplement and hair care line that I created. So I founded it. I sold the company, but I still advise them and consult them and help with product development and things. So that's the spadoctor.com. And you can also follow them on social media, the Spa Doctor. The books, Clean Skin from Within, Natural Beauty Reset, those are on Amazon, wherever books are sold. And yeah, that's where I am.
Fantastic. Are you ready for some rapid fire questions?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a wellness hack that you refuse to participate in?
A wellness hack I refuse to participate in. There are a lot of them. I would say any kind of psychedelic anything. A psychedelic microdosing and assisted therapies. I mean, for me personally, I know that in certain environments, like with PTSD and things like that, that there can be some help. Me personally, I don't want to participate in that.
Yeah, I hear you on that, like microdosing and macrodosing. That to me just doesn't seem like a fun way to spend an afternoon or a few days. I totally appreciate that they may work really well for some people, but there's also other things that don't involve psychedelics that could work too. So I'm sort of
I
like, okay.
I naturally have a really high theta wave brain wave. And so that means I have like, I can close my eyes and meditate and have these like very visual, it's almost like dreamlike states while I'm awake. And so I don't need to do stuff like that.
Yeah, your brain can already
Yeah.
do things on its own, right? Absolutely appreciate that other people might benefit from it, and I'm not trying to discount that, but yeah, it's also not for me. What about if the supplement police came to your house and raided all of your supplements and said, "We're going to confiscate everything, but maybe we'll just let you keep one thing"? What would be that one thing that you would keep?
I mean, to be honest, I know it's going to sound like a pitch, but the hormone balance blend that I created for the spa doctor right now at this point in my life, that would be a hard one to part with. Hormone balance blend.
Can you tell us what's in that and what that does?
Yeah, so this is for perimenopause, and it has things like black cohosh and chastery and things like that that help with those kind of fluctuations that we go through in perimenopause, and helps with managing some of the symptoms. I find it's particularly helpful for my mood. I notice on days that I don't take it, I'm like, why am I just not feeling like myself today? I'm like, oh, that's right, I didn't take the supplement. So I think it really does kind of help stabilize. Yeah.
You know, the chase tree, the interesting thing, I felt like with perimenopause, I got like a lot of brain fog, but I started taking chase tree and I was like, oh my gosh, like my brain is back. It's so fascinating how, I mean, I wasn't taking it for those benefits, but all of a sudden I'm like, okay, let's get this organized. Let's clean this up. And for a while I was like, kind of like walking around in circles and like really having trouble with, I was like, do I have ADHD? I've never had ADHD. I've always had this like really, you know, like very high executive function. I've taken so many of those assessments and it's like, this is where you shine. And then all of a sudden perimenopause hit. And the only thing that really helped for that was Vitex or Chase Tree, which is another name for that. And it's so fascinating.
It is really great. Now, it after women go through menopause, it's not as helpful. But as if we're still, if our ovaries are still working, then it does seem to still help. But after, once you get postmenopause, it doesn't seem to have it doesn't seem to work as much. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I have a few more years before I get there. So, I'm utilizing it, but I know a lot of women have said that as well. Is like it could work in perimenopause, but once you've crossed the line, right, and you haven't had your menses for a year, you'll want to do something more like progesterone and bioidentical hormones. That it's going to stop working. But I'm happy that it's working. So, so I'm really.
Yeah, Don Quai is another one and the hormone balance blend that I think is really great with helping with mood and brain fog and things like that. So I like that too.
Did you know that this is actually a big game changer for low ferritin levels? So a lot of times women with low ferritin levels tend to do really well with that. So I love that you put that in there and your perimenopause, you've got heavy menses and you've got all these issues. That can be such a big game changer. I'm sure you knew that, but everybody listening, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is an amazing formula. So you've really thought it through. I appreciate that. The other question I wanted to ask you is, what's the craziest, most outlandish thing that you've done for your health? It's a slippery slope, I know.
Craziest thing I've done for my health. I mean, I guess it's crazy. I grew up in an organic farm in Virginia. Like I grew up with and my parents introduced me to natural medicine. Like when I had a lot of health issues, but I got help when I was 11 years old. So I feel like I've been really blessed with that part. But as I got older, I realized that I had some unresolved like emotional stuff and things like that. And so one of the crazy things that I went and did like this trauma therapy program, and it was an immersive 6-day program. This was crazy for me because I'm the person that's like, I've got kids, I've got patients, I've got, like a business. I've come like for me to completely check out and go into this deep trauma therapy work. I did it at a place called Onsite. It was just amazing. And we had to turn our phones over, our laptops. Like we couldn't have any of that. That to me was crazy, but it was really profound. And I feel like I think it's hard to escape some sort of trauma in life. Like what it can be our families, it can be something that happens in school with coaches, with work, all kinds of things can happen with marriages. And so I think it's an important piece, but I never thought I would do that.
But I bet it was so life-changing for you to do
It-
that and to process all that trauma and come out up to the other side of it, right?
yeah.
Yeah. It's so important to care for yourself. Last but not least, I did want to ask you if there are any perhaps like things that you indulge in that maybe aren't like naturopathic doctor approved, where somebody would see you and they'd be like, huh, is that Dr. Trevor Cates? Any kind of like guilty pleasures?
Hmm. I'm trying to think what that might be. I really do walk my talk. Like I don't like eating sugar. You would never catch me in fast food. You'd never catch me and like not gonna be in like a tanning bed or it's like laying in the sun or any of that. Trying to think what that might be. My gosh, that's a hard one for I'm sure there is one.
From
I'm
TV?
not perfect.
Yeah.
Um, do you have any others I can come back to on that one?
Yeah, you can think about that one.
Okay, I've got one. I've got one for you. I love chocolate. Like that's my big thing. And my kids know this about me. My weakness is Reese's peanut butter cups. And they know like I'm super healthy. I just don't touch that stuff. But they'll put it in front of me. Like they'll like, haha. And they know I can't turn it down.
That sounds really delicious and like a great thing to have as part of balance, right?
Yeah.
Make sure that your detox pathways and your digestive enzymes are still working pretty well and that your microbiome is in check. It's good to like test your microbiome every now and then, isn't it? Great. Dr. Trevor Cates, thank you so much for being here with me today. Thank you for all of the incredible work and education that you've done for women's health and for skincare and now for our hair. Really, really appreciate you as a woman who uses your product. So, really great having you here. For everybody listening, I hope this conversation has been healing on your journey. Until next time, take care.
Thank you.